Loida, thank you for joining this conversation. Can you introduce yourself to our audience, who you are, and give us your credentials?
Well, my name is Loida Velasquez. I am with Team BC at eXp Realty. I have been an agent and in the business for over 6 years.
We live in interesting times. Corona actually gave an unprecedented boost to real estate market. How much did the prices go up in the past couple of years?
It's funny because I sold a condo 2 years ago, just to give you guys an idea. Sold it for 280, and then last year, a year later, sold it for 315. So I mean, the real estate market has gone up so much, and we thought that things were not going to be this way because of the pandemic, but it was quite the opposite.
So now with interest rates that are about to go up, do you have a prognosis on what's going to happen to real estate market this year?
So I think what's going to happen with the interest rates going up is that it's going to give an opportunity probably to all of those buyers that have been getting outbid from the more qualified buyers. I guess if you can say the ones that are coming in with a lot of cash that are able to pay a lot over asking. It's going to give those maybe first time buyers the opportunity to finally get into a home just because things are going to stabilize a little bit since the interest rates are going up. But yeah, in the past, what we have seen even across the US is that for first time buyers, it has been rough just because a lot of them don't have an additional 10, 20, 30,000 to pay over the appraisal value. And that is something that we saw happening a lot in the past 2 years.
Okay, but do you think the prices will continue going up, or you think prices are going to subside a little bit?
I think it's going to level out a little bit. It might go up a little bit more, but eventually it's going to kind of stabilize.
Demand, right? California is driven a lot by high-tech buyers. Florida is driven by people that have been migrating from northern states south. Do you think migration will change in the opposite direction? What do you think? How the people will move around in the United States? Any ideas?
Well, we saw in California, especially, a lot of Californians ended up leaving to Texas, Arizona, and Nevada. We did see quite a few come over all the way across to Florida, but just like you mentioned, Florida was mostly people from the north, New York. Now, where we're going to see people coming and going from, it's probably going to be something similar to this. I think a lot has to do with taxes as well. With California specifically, taxes being so high, people are trying to get away from that. And I think that's why those states, along with Florida, have been very popular with individuals now that many of them are able to work from home. If they can move to somewhere that is less expensive and they can purchase a home and have a home office, it just makes more sense for them that way.
Purchasing a house, selling a house, typically a once in a lifetime event for a typical consumer. But where should one start when they're interested to sell the house for the first time?
If they're interested in selling their home, the very first thing will be to definitely get connected with a real estate agent. Like I mentioned at the beginning of our interview, I specialize a lot working with for sale by owners. So there's a lot of people that think selling the homes on their own is going to save them money. But what ends up happening is that they end up leaving money on the table just because maybe they're not sure on how to negotiate the way that we do. You know, we know the contracts and all of that. So getting connected with a real estate agent is definitely the first step. Also knowing exactly what your next move is going to look like, whether you're going to upsize, downsize, relocate out of state to another city. And it's very important for the homeowner to be very clear on that because it's going to facilitate the job of the real estate agent and also the homeowner so that everything goes smoothly. If those things are not in place by the time that the home goes on the market, it can be very hectic, very crazy, almost like a nightmare. And that's obviously we want to avoid. And then on top of that, just making sure that once you do decide to put the home on the market, that it's priced correctly. Even if it's overpriced, we don't want to come across any issues where buyers are really interested. They want to buy the house, but then the home doesn't appraise. And then, we're going back and forth trying to negotiate and don't come to a conclusion. So pricing the home correctly is extremely important as well.
Pricing the home is absolutely correct, is one of the most important things. How do you price a home?
So what we do is that we take a look at homes that have recently sold that are very comparable to the home that we're going to list. The things that we look at are things like the condition of the home, any upgrades, maybe anything that does need to be upgraded or might be a negative. If the home is going to need a new roof or it needs a new water heater, AC, we take all of those things into account. And the reason that we want to take a look at homes that have recently sold is because chances are that whoever does purchase a home is probably going to have financing. An appraiser is going to go out, and the appraiser is going to take a look at the same properties that we see in order to determine the value of the property. So that's kind of how we arrive at the numbers when we suggest to the homeowners on what it should go on the market for.
What is the taxation for personal finances are going to be when selling primary residence?
So it depends on whether or not someone is selling the home for the first time or if it's maybe an investment property. If it's an investment property, what you want to do is if you want to sell that property and purchase something else, then we do what is called a 1031 exchange. By doing that, the homeowner cannot touch that money, the proceeds, otherwise they would be taxed and have to pay capital gains. So the 1031 exchange is an option. Pretty much, I think across the board, I know specifically for California, if a property is under, for example, a husband and wife, they are exempt up to $500,000 if they are making that at the end of the sale. If it's just a single individual, it's $250,000. So whether or not you're going to have to pay capital gains or whatever it is, I just tell all my clients consult with your CPA or your accountant because they'll be able to give you the best financial advice on their situation to move forward.
So 1031 exchange only works in case you buy up or buy down a new property somewhere else. But what if someone wants to just sell their house and that's it, go rent somewhere? People need to pay taxes even if it is the first home?
No, it depends on how much they are netting. If they're selling for the first time, they won't have to pay. If it's a second time and they're making, let's say, if it's a single person and they're making over 350, they would only be taxed on the difference between the 250 and the 350. So that 100,000. That's kind of how it works. It can get a little complicated, but that's kind of to break it down.
Gotcha, Loida. Thank you very much. In your career, have you ever ran into the issue of scams related to buying and selling of homes? We very much would like to warn our consumers what to watch out for.
Yeah. So, for example, when working with buyers, if you're a home buyer watching this and an agent tells you that they charge you to work with them, that is a red flag. At the end of the day, a buyer's agent gets paid their commission through the seller. So if they do charge a fee, I would be hesitant or question what is that fee for and why they're charging it, because they should not be charging you. You're not responsible for their commission. Now, that is something that can be negotiated, but across the board, a buyer's agent gets paid through the seller. Now, on the other hand, if you are a seller and you have your home on the market, you have a lot of activity, but you're not getting any offers, that's another red flag. What that tells me is that if there's a lot of people that are interested and no one is submitting offers, then something's going on. Because if you have a lot of activity, no offers, what's going on? What we see happening many times is that sometimes the listing agent is trying to find their own buyer as well. So they want to keep the entire transaction and commission to themselves. So they won't represent or they won't present any offers that will come in, or they just will withhold information from the seller. So that's a red flag that we see happening all the time. That's something that when I first started and specializing in working with expireds, a lot of homeowners would tell me that. A lot of listing agents also, unfortunately, do not communicate. So that's another red flag. If they start getting upset with you, if they start getting very emotional, it might be because this might be their only deal. And if it doesn't happen, then they're not going to get paid. At the end of the day, we don't get paid until a deal closes and everyone's happy. There's many times that we put in months worth of work and then the deal just falls apart. And at that point, we just have to move on.
You said that the buyer agent usually receives a percentage of seller's commission. On the sale side, is real estate commission negotiable or it's guaranteed? Are there rules about it or can people negotiate around?
The commission is negotiable. You're going to see everything. So on average, a lot of agents charge 6%. That is divided between the buyers and the seller's agent. However, you see everything from 2%, 3%, 4%. You see flat fees. What I like to tell a homeowner is at the end of the day, you do pay what you get what you pay for, pretty much. Sometimes people think, if they charge me less, I'm going to get more. However, many agents, they might discount their commission as the only way to differentiate themselves from other agents. It doesn't guarantee that they know what they're doing or that they're going to negotiate the best terms for them as well. So yeah, to answer your question, it is negotiable. You have to make sure that you talk to the agent and see what exactly they cover with what they're charging. And obviously that you're not tied into a long contract. That's another thing that I want to bring up, going back to scams and things like that. So real estate contracts, the time frame is really up to the listing agent and the homeowner. Typically, it can be 3 months, 6 months, a year, but it's all negotiable. So sometimes homeowners end up having a bad experience with agents and they tell them, hey, I want to cancel. Please take the listing off the market. So the agents end up pulling it off the market, but instead of canceling it, they only withdraw it. If it's withdrawn, that means that technically that homeowner is still under contract with that listing agent. And a lot of homeowners think that, I told Joe Schmo to pull it off and he canceled it. Unfortunately, when we talk to them and they tell us that they still do want to sell and we see that it's withdrawn, we can't help them. So we cannot help a homeowner if their listing is withdrawn. However, that agent that they used to have will never tell them that they just withdrew it. They would tell them that they canceled. And that's a big red flag that unfortunately we have to see and we come across all the time.
Let's say I was not happy with the previous real estate agent. I told them to cancel it. They just withdrew it. And now I like you. I would like you to be my agent. So aren't you going to tell me that it's listed with another agent? And is it me that have to go back to my previous agent and tell them to cancel it for real?
Yes. So pretty much the reason that some agents don't cancel it and they just withdraw it is because the process to cancel it means that they have to speak to their broker and their broker has to sign off on it. So sometimes they don't want to go through that hassle of telling their broker, hey, this client doesn't want to work with me anymore. So they'll just hold on and kind of tie you into the contract. So as a real estate agent, there's a lot of services that we can get where we are provided information of homeowners that are in those situations. So let's say you end up liking me over the other agent. At that point, I tell you, unfortunately, your home is not completely canceled. So the next step would be for you to tell that previous agent that you had to cancel it and to send you a copy of the cancellation. So once you have that copy, then we can talk again and then we can proceed with working together. Otherwise, there's nothing that I can do.
Can I have multiple sales side agents or I have to have a single sales side agent that works with me?
You only want to have one agent to represent you. It's possible to have a co-listing agent. However, it can be very tricky if the agents are from different companies, a lot of paperwork involved, signatures to get. So ideally, you only want to stick to having one agent to represent you.
What are the smart questions to ask an agent to make sure that they are a good sales side agent?
Yeah, you want to ask how they're going to negotiate the offers that come in, what they're going to do for marketing, aside from putting the sign in the yard and putting it on the MLS, the contract period, how long they're going to have to sign off. So for example, something that I do with any of my sellers is that with me, you can cancel anytime because we know that people don't like contracts. Let's say we start working together and in 2 weeks, you told me, Loida, you know what? We're not a good fit. I don't want to work with you. Then that's fine. We rip up the contract. You move on. I move on. We're happy. You also want to find out if you were to cancel, do you owe any fees? Because some agents will stick some fees in there if they have taken pictures or done marketing that they'll want to charge you for. So those are just some of the basic questions that you want to ask. And then you just want to ask as well, just their reputation. Look them up on Google, see if you can find any information on them. Nowadays, you can find anything online. For buyers, I would say if you are currently looking for a home or in the process of getting approved, or you just want to get into a property, I would say just be patient. The market is not going to be like this forever. And we understand your pain because at the same time, we're out there showing homes. Another thing is also be patient with us as agents, because sometimes we go out of our way to set showings and schedule appointments and things like that. And there's just the market is so crazy that if an offer doesn't get accepted, what I see happening sometimes is that buyers think that we don't know what we're doing, when in reality, we're competing with 15 other offers. So, in that term, in that side with buyers, just be patient and know that eventually you probably will be able to get something. Make sure that your finances are in order, that you're always staying up to date. And then if you are a seller or a homeowner thinking about selling right now, you guys know it's a great time to take advantage of the market. Again, think of what it is that you do want to do, whether you want to upsize, downsize, whether you want to invest your money, go out of state. We see a lot of people taking their money into other states that are more profitable. So those are probably the biggest tips that I can give.
Loida, thank you for your time. Thank you for this wonderful interview. Good luck with what you're doing.